So yesterday, we witnessed Sony either being unable to read the room or not caring to read the room. And I'm kind of undecided as to which way I'm going with this one, but it does have to do with Helldivers 2. This has become, probably Sony's most popular multiplayer game at this time, and maybe for quite some time now. It's really been a while since I've seen a game like this come out for Sony in terms of first party, and it's just taking off like this, especially with concurrent player count, and especially across PlayStation and PC. Well, after an announcement yesterday, it seems like many people on PC are not happy about the idea of having to have a PlayStation account, because now it appears that's something they're moving towards being completely forced, and there is quite a few questions around this one, which we'll dive into here today. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. So if we head over here, this is posted up over on the Helldivers Steam page with an update. They say, attention Helldivers, due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. See details below in this post. Account linking plays a critical role in protecting our players and upholding the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studios games. This is our main way to protect players from griefing and abuse by enabling the banning of players that engage in that type of behavior. It also allows those players that have been banned the right to appeal. As such, as of May 6th, all new Helldivers 2 players on Steam will be required to connect their Steam account to a PlayStation Network account. Current players on Steam will start to see the mandatory login from May 30th and will be required to have linked to a Steam and PlayStation Network account by June 4th. Now, they do point out where you can go to sign up and get this PlayStation Network account, which, as many of you know, to sign up for an account for one of these places, it is free. That's been pointed out, obviously, and it takes, 5 or 10 minutes to do. That's not really the thing that's necessarily being pointed out here or pushed back on, which, yes, it's being pushed back on quite a bit. Actually, in fact, if you look over on SteamDB, you can see where the negative reviews started coming in after this announcement, because, wow, May 3rd, negative reviews, 42,721. It's kind of the situation you run into when you just have a popular game. An update can really make or break the title at that point. And in this case, because so many eyes have been on this game since launch, even that initial announcement over on X has over 10 million impressions. So yes, many people going to Steam to express their frustration over the idea of having to get a PlayStation Network account just to play the title. Now, this does also play into the idea of that double-edged sword mentality for a live service game. On one hand, a company can indeed completely reboot certain titles. They can mold it to how the community would like it, with feedback coming straight to the developers and the publishers, them able to update and change that game going forward. But at the same time, they can actually make the game more inconvenient for gamers. And yes, technically this would make it more inconvenient, because while you have your Steam account that initially was enough to get into the game on PC, you now also have to have a PlayStation Network account. If you're on PS5, this means nothing to you because you've had a PlayStation account this entire way just to play online. It costs money, $80 a year to do so. Not the case on PC. Now, they did mention that this is something that has existed. This optional PlayStation account that's now a requirement, seemingly after going into June. That's something that was there before launch. There was terminology, there was stuff written on the page, and in fact, if you go over to their store page and you go back to, this is December 2023 with the Wayback Machine, it does indeed mention that it does require a third-party account, PlayStation Network. The reason they didn't have that as a requirement at the time of launch is because the game was having a hard time just functioning, because so many people were trying to log in at any one time. They had to just get the game running correctly, as it was very clear Arrowhead and Sony were not expecting the kind of traffic and interest in Helldivers 2, so they were kind of stuck just trying to play catch-up the entire way, and disabling one extra step to get into the game was something they decided to do just to streamline and try to make it a bit easier to smooth out all the server issues they were running into. I do want to point out something else, though. So when they make that announcement, they mention you can read more about your PlayStation Network account that you're going to make, how to do it, that sort of thing. If you look over here, though, on the FAQ, it does say, do I have to sign in the PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? And it says signing into PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC. So they might want to change that terminology as it's becoming a requirement for Helldivers 2. It's not a requirement yet, technically. That'll be after May 6th for any new person buying Helldivers 2 on Steam. So I guess they technically have like 2 or 3 days to fix that. Check this out. As I was recording and then editing, I noticed that Sony updated this page. So instead of now reading optional, it says some PlayStation games may require you sign in and link to an account for PSN. So they must have also realized what this page said exactly just after the Helldivers 2 update went live. Their initial intention was to have you signing in with a PlayStation Network account. And by the way, this is something that's obviously being mandated by Sony, the platform holder, as Arrowhead CEO even mentioned here, in really alluding to the idea of them not having any control over this, saying outright in the review score, well, I guess it's warranted. Sorry, everyone, for how this all transpired. I hope we make it up and regain the trust by providing a continued great game experience. I just want to make great games. Yeah, so this is the issue, obviously, here is people are frustrated with a decision from Sony, and they're technically taking it out on Arrowhead, who is at the front lines and is basically going to see the brunt of this. The Sony account requirement is something that I've kind of discussed being, I think, a big point of interest for Sony as they move over to PC with many of their titles, especially the live service stuff. And the problem here, they didn't mandate it from the start. And I feel like if they had, it would have been annoying for people, but they would have known what they were getting into when they bought it. Whereas now many people have had purchased this game months ago at this time, and all of a sudden there's a requirement for login to play the game. I think if they had set this up once again as an optional thing and continued that path, and maybe it unlocked trophies, gave you extra benefits, people would be like, well, I don't have to sign up for it, whatever, I don't want to, I'm just on Steam, and that's where all of my stuff exists, who cares? Yeah, it's a path forward, but I think putting up that wall for this live service title shared between PlayStation and PC is clearly going to bring up, once again, the live service stuff around should these publishers and platform owners be able to alter things in this fashion. But also, it's just PC gamers don't really want to deal with this kind of stuff. And that's the thing that I think Sony, if they failed to read the room, massive misstep here then. Like that. The fact that I would know this, and I have to imagine Arrowhead, as they are very, very, very close to the community, it seems, they would probably know this as well. Sony, probably not so much. Just when can we flip the switch for those accounts for PlayStation? Because yes, while the Arrowhead mentioned in that post, you know what, being able to have a unique ID that works between PlayStation and PC all the same way does make it easier for us to identify players who are, as they mentioned, just cheating in what's not really a competitive game anyway. It's PvE. I understand if it's player versus player and there is serious competitive benefit against one another, but this is kind of a game where the community is actually really cool to one another. So it's, I don't know, it seems strange to be like, well, they're obviously cheating. They're messing up the game for other players. Like, are they? I am curious. For people who have been really, really invested in Helldivers 2, is like rampant cheating, is that a serious issue in the game? Because when I was playing it, I just never really saw it ever. As for me, I will admit, when a login screen comes up for a game that I'm playing on the Xbox or on the PlayStation or even on the Switch that's separate from my account on that system, right? So usually there'd be like an auto login kind of thing behind the scenes and you're in the multiplayer. But when that screen comes up, I will admit there was a moment where I'm like, how committed am I to playing this game right now? Especially if it was one that I just kind of was loading up on a whim, like, let's see what this game is exactly, or let's see what this update is all about for a game that I put down for a while. And when that comes up and I'm like, do I remember my password? Do I want to make an account? How much time? It's a whole thing there, even though I know it's like 5 or 10 minutes to make an account, but it's an extra step to get into the game in what's a very competitive time right now for multiplayer games across the industry, trying to get your time. And then on top of that, if you want your friends to play, you then have to convince them to also go through the login screen. So I have been in a situation where I've just kind of been like, maybe I'll come back to this game later, just because of that extra login screen that was presented. Anyway, I do think the idea of getting PC gamers to sign up for a PlayStation accounts is a very important thing for Sony, and I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing something like Ghost of Tsushima have that at least as an optional thing with that interface for trophies. So a lot of their single-player games will also incorporate this, and like Concord, for example, Fair Games, those are clearly going to have them, and now, as we're seeing, probably have them at launch. So I don't think you're going to see this this grace period, because there are other things that also will go into that. For example, PlayStation Network isn't necessarily available in all regions, and not in all regions where Steam exists and can sell the game. So that's something that Arrowhead has mentioned. They're trying to figure out with Sony. What do you do for people who bought the game on Steam in different regions of the world that's not supported on PlayStation Network? Like, you can't make an account with your region. So do you then have to just refund the money, and they just those people just lose access to the game? That is something they'll have to figure out and work through. Maybe they don't require it from them. Maybe they have them sign up in the nearest region they can. I'm not sure what the solve is there. And finally, there are many people who are wondering if Sony will reverse course on this one. We'll obviously have to see. I would not bet on it, though. This was clearly the plan from the start, and they ran into some unexpected issues with the launch of the game just being incredibly popular, but they always wanted you to sign in with a PlayStation Network account in order to play it on Steam. So I think right now this is going to be a moment where Sony is just like, hey, if you want to play the game, sign up for PlayStation Network. I'm not really sure how this is going to transpire, because clearly massive pushback is happening right now with PC gamers. But is this something that they will continue to push back on, or will just over the course of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it kind of just fizzles out and people just start making PlayStation accounts because they really want to play the latest update for Helldivers 2? We will see. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. With Helldivers 2 months later, now having the requirement for a PlayStation Network account, even if you're playing on PC. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.